Hello, everybody. Let's call this Board of Adjustments meeting for the City of Missoula to order. All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Sandy Mitchell,
I am here.
Patrick Brightgum,
Here.
Hans Hoffman,
Here.
Lance Coach,
Here.
John Newman,
Here.
James Sage, James Sage is absent, Caitlin Hepburn is absent, Don Briggs,
Here.
and Joseph Sukanik. Joseph Sukanik is absent. And we have a quorum. Hans, you're muted.
Thank you. All right, thank you for establishing that we have a quorum. I was not at the previous meeting. I'll leave it to somebody else to approve the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the March meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I think on these online meetings, it's easier to ask if there are any dissenting voices. So does anybody move to disapprove those for any reason? Hearing no objections, the minutes from the March meeting are approved. At this time, we open up our floor for public comment, and this is for non-agenda items. We'll move on to the agenda shortly. There we are. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining this Zoom webinar. When I call for the public comment, please use the raise or lower your hand feature to let me know you wish to be recognized, and our host will allow you to talk, and you'll need to unmute your mic. If you've joined us by phone today, you can raise or lower your hand by pressing *9 and mute and unmute using *6. If you are participating by phone, I'll call on you by reading the last 4 digits of your phone number. If you are participating by computer, I'll call the name that was listed when you enter the webinar. At this time, does anyone wish to be recognized for public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing no hands raised, we'll move on. Are there any staff announcements?
No staff announcements for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 6. This is the public hearing, a public forum for the Rocky Mountain Gardens and Exploration Center at the Missoula County Fairgrounds, involving the construction of a new building and parking area on the parcel located at 1101 South Avenue West. This is a public forum only, so we will not be voting on this as a panel. I believe the floor is yours. Are you taking this, Emily?
Yeah. All right.
Great.
I'm trying to get my screen to work.
Yeah.
Stand by. Did not do what I wanted it to do.
Before we start, we have two people in attendee list.
Yeah.
Should I promote them?
I don't know those names. Are they with the presenters?
I know Crystal, who is already in here,
Daniel
part of the team.
Lermatinger, and Dirk Visser or Visser. There's a hand raised.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dan Ermatinger, and I'm a property owner across the street on the north side of South Avenue.
All right. So you are a member of the public here to speak?
Yeah, and also learn more about the proposal.
Okay.
All right, you're gonna unmute me now?
I can mute you. There you go. And Dirk, are you, yep, I see your hand up. You should be allowed to talk now. You need to unmute.
How's this?
There you go.
All right. Yeah, Dirk Visser. I'm the CEO of Allegiance, also the owner of most of the block there at 1100 South, 1110 and 2300 Brooks, right across from this project.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm here to learn.
Okay.
All right. So we have two members of the public. Emily, why don't you proceed with your presentation?
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Emily Gluckin, and I am an associate planner in the Development Services Division of Community Planning, Development, and Innovation. Tonight, I will be presenting a request for a public forum from the Missoula County Fairgrounds for an exemption to the setback requirement of the OP3 zoning district. The proposal overall includes new construction of the Rocky Mountain Gardens and Exploration Center, which will be a new building on the fairgrounds property that will have an associated parking area on the site. My PDF does not want to work. Okay. The fairgrounds is located at the intersection of Russell and South Ave. It's located in the Lewis and Clark neighborhood and is within City Council Ward 4. And the subject project that we'll be talking about tonight is going to be located at the very northeast corner of the property. The Fairgrounds Parcel is, as I mentioned, located within the OP3 Public Lands and Institutional Zoning District. And it's mostly surrounded by commercial zoning to the north and west, and more open space zoning to the east and south. Since the fairgrounds property is a fairly large parcel that contains several buildings and recreational uses, I will be focusing tonight on the existing conditions of the smaller project area in that northeast corner. The site currently contains a paved parking lot that has access from Fairway and Stevens Ave. These are both private roads that connect to South Ave. And building 36 of the fairgrounds currently exists on the site and will be removed prior to construction. That's the building in red to the south of this image. The property frontage on South Ave currently contains landscaping and fencing along the sidewalk. To the west of the proposed project site is the Home Arts Building, also called Building 35 on the fairgrounds property, and it also fronts South Ave west. There are commercial uses to the north of the property, also on South Ave, and the Missoula County Public Schools office is located directly to the east of the site. I would like to provide some information about why this is a public forum this evening. Per Montana state law, public agencies, including Missoula County, are allowed to propose land uses on publicly owned lands that are contrary to local zoning regulations. So when a public agency, such as Missoula County, requests to do this, a public hearing is required to provide an opportunity for public comment on the proposal. The Board of Adjustment may not approve or deny the request, and staff does not make a recommendation. So this is purely an informational meeting this evening. The screen went blank. Sorry, 1 second. Let's see if I can fix that. Technology does not like me today. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So as I mentioned earlier, the scope of this project includes the construction of a new building that will house the Rocky Mountain Gardens and Exploration Center. It will also include the expansion of the existing parking area that will serve that building and the creation of a large garden area on the site to the south of the proposed building. Tonight, Missoula County is requesting an exemption from the front setback standard of the OP3 Public Lands and Institutional District. This requires a 30-foot setback from the front property line, which is measured from South Ave. The proposed placement of the building will instead be approximately 6 feet from the property line, or from the front property line, which lines up with the front setback of the existing Home Arts building, which is building 35 on this plan to the west. There we go. So notification to the public is required 15 days prior to a public forum. This is required by Title 20 or zoning code. Letters were mailed to adjacent property owners within 150 feet of the Fairgrounds parcel. Notices were posted on site on the South Ave frontage and at the intersection of Brooks and Russell. And comment was requested from other relevant city agencies, and no comment has been received at this time. So staff does not have a recommended motion, but I am happy to answer any questions. Thank you. And I do know there are some members from the project team that are here this evening.
Thank you, Emily. Do any of the members of the project team wish to add to that?
Hi, my name is Crystal Herzog. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep.
Yep, I'm with A&E Architects and I'm working on this project. I think Emily did a pretty good job explaining the intent there. I just want to add that this particular project is being done in accordance with the Fairgrounds design guidelines, which are very similar in nature to the design excellence requirements for the city properties. So just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that. And it has been our intent through this entire process to really make a space that is suitable and enjoyable for Midtown as it becomes more of a commercial area, and to preserve the open space that is the fairgrounds as well. So fronting the building a little closer to the street helps us achieve both of those goals.
Thank you. I see that Mr. Visser would like to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding of the variance, I I think I understand the logic that was explained about lining up with the previous building, but that building is, I've lived in Missoula 50 years. I seem to always remember that building being there, so it likely predates the current zoning and setback requirements and so forth. I'm trying to understand what the hardship is that would merit a variance for this project, given all the space that is there where this proposed building is going up.
I may be mistaken, but I don't believe that these kinds of projects need to show that there is hardship.
Well, I guess as point of order, I would quote the variance regs, which say that any variance is intended to address unnecessary hardships resulting from strict application of the zoning. So since there's more than adequate space for this building to be built within the existing zoning regulations, I don't understand why there's even a request for the variance under the circumstances.
Well, I'll just let you know that state law indicates that the Board of Adjustments has no power to deny the proposal, but we are acting only to allow your public comment. So I do appreciate that public comment, and I wonder if any of the people on here from the project or Emily have anything to respond.
I can just clarify. So public forums are treated a little differently than variances. They're authorized through state law for public agencies to request exemptions, and there isn't a set of review criteria like there is a standard variance because of this kind of automatic authorization through state law for the Board of Adjustment to hold these public forums.
This is Crystal, and I don't know that it's necessarily a hardship, but I just wanted to talk a little bit to your point, Dirk. The idea of this particular building has a lot of programming that's community oriented associated with it, and the area that is south of the building will be an educational garden component to it. And so one of the program goals was to create a large space where folks could gather for, extension related activities for agriculture and gardening and things that are directly tied to the fairgrounds. And so the intent was to keep that as whole as we could. So I'm trying to think of the word, but like that it's not broken up in front of the building and behind the building. And so the educational garden component of it is on the south area of this particular site. And so that was a decision that was made by the building owners and the program that will be using the facility and the fairgrounds themselves, all of the kind of interested parties and stakeholders. We went through a pretty extensive process to do implementation and master plan for the fairgrounds and which sightings of what buildings and placements and open spaces were important to preserve. So part of that public process was the design guidelines, which came out of that, and it identified, siting this building closer to the street and preserving that open space inside the fairgrounds and south of this building as a community garden, community educational component. So I don't know if that's necessarily what you're asking, but it's a little bit of history on the project.
Yeah, am I still on?
You are.
Okay. Yeah, just responding to the question there. It's a substantial building. There are other buildings along South Avenue on both sides of the street. The only one that isn't compliant with the setbacks right now is the CMU building that's been on the fairgrounds for decades. And since you're coming on a corner there, I don't know, it just seems to me like it'd be more consistent with everything in the area if it lined up with the Missoula County Public School building now that's immediately to the east of where this is going up.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
I mean, just from an impact on the area,
mhm.
it's way out of compliance with what every other building in the area, how it's cited on that particular street.
What will be the setback of that existing or that new building?
They're requesting a 6-foot setback where the
6 foot as opposed to 30.
as opposed to 30.
Will the construction disrupt traffic on South Avenue then?
I think that's up to the contractor in regards to means and methods for construction of the building. There will be a portion of time where I imagine the sidewalk will be closed for utility upgrades and water service upgrades for the fairgrounds as well as this particular building.
Thank you.
It does seem to be that the intent is to keep as much space available away from the street to avoid the noise and also to preserve what currently does exist in the public gardens. Though I do hear what you're saying, Mr. Visser. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I just, like I said, my understanding was that any variance that was requested had to have some sort of a hardship associated with it.
That is true of private entities, but that is actually not true of public entities due to state law. Things such as the school district and the fairground of the county do not need to be granted by this committee a variance.
So who does grant the variance then?
I believe it is relatively automatic. I'm not sure how that part of the law works.
Essentially, once the public forum is held, the exemption is allowed, basically.
Allowed by whom? You said the board doesn't have the ability to grant or deny it. You're just holding the hearing.
That's correct.
So what's the point of the hearing if it just happens because somebody in government somewhere wants it to happen? When private property owners who are actually paying the taxes are having an issue with it.
This seems to me, Mr. Visser, probably something you might want to take up with your state legislator. The law is what it is. The county doesn't need to request the variance, so we're not in a variance procedure here. And the purpose of a public forum is to inform the public and to hear comments. And if comments are able to be enveloped in the project, and so be it, but there's no requirement for that to happen, I think is the message here.
Is there anybody on the call today that's representing the county from a legal standpoint?
I don't know that I've ever heard anybody challenge the legality of this procedure before, but I'm sure that the Missoula County Attorney's Office can answer any questions that you have if you want to contact them.
Yeah, I wish Caitlin was on the call because she'd be the one I'd be calling.
And that might be a good idea for you to give her a call tomorrow.
Yeah. I see Dan's hand raised.
Yeah, let's check in with Dan.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me. Just a couple things. I'll start with my friendship and relationship with Lance Cook, just as a matter of disclosure. We work together in the same company. I have not discussed this matter with him, nor any realm of his role on this board, just so you know, okay? But I have known Berkshire Hathaway, Missoula Properties across the street from this fairground location. And I think it would be helpful for this whole conversation if a site plan were to be presented to the group here so that we could see the proposed building envelope relative to the expected envelope per zoning. So that would give us the, setback as applied to everybody, measured against what's being asked for in this conversation. Is there a site plan that would show the building footprint? And then I have a few more comments if we can bring that up.
Well, I felt the packet that we received prior to the meeting gave more detail than Emily presented today. Maybe that would suffice. Because
Well-
it actually had the layout of the building where the restrooms would be and where the
Okay,
rooms would.
I have not seen that. So all I saw was the one-page notice of this meeting tonight.
It seems to me the problem is, and I feel this way with all of these things, when we get to this stage, it was just like people needed to be more involved, like when they were doing the master plan for the fairgrounds. That might have been the best time to voice your opinion. And those maybe need to be advertised a little better. I'm not sure.
Well, my understanding is, and I could be wrong, is that this request for a variance, which I don't really know how else to describe this, is a newer matter, and that's why it's presented now. Perhaps the building's migrated from where it's been illustrated over the last few years that it's, been in the conversation publicly. I don't know, but I'm assuming, actually, now that I think of it, I think the whole plan got flip-flopped. It looks like the building is now on the west side of the parcel, where previously, when I first learned about this project, which frankly I support, I think this is a good project overall, is now, it's been flip-flopped. So you got parking to the east right now and a building on the west, whereas initially that was flip-flopped. Isn't that true?
Maybe Crystal has some information on that. I don't know the history of this project.
Yeah, so I do have a bit of history on it. So I think initially the building was centered with parking on both sides, and how much parking on each side wasn't really defined. And now we still have parking on both sides, but the parking on the east side is more substantial than the parking on the west side. And that is just due to, we really don't want folks driving through the fairgrounds. It's not a thoroughfare. It's a space for, a park-like atmosphere and people to be very pedestrian friendly. And so by moving the parking lot to the east, it really can help serve the fairgrounds, the gardens, the building, and as well, if necessary, the MCPS office building.
Yeah.
So it allows for greater shared parking, as well as creating a safer and contiguous fair experience during Fair Week or during an event. And I do have a site plan that I can share on my screen if I know how to do that. I don't know if that's possible.
Sure. Well, I'll say a few more things if you're going to pursue that for a minute now, Crystal.
I don't really know if I can.
Okay.
But I was just going to show the site plan that was issued as part of the agenda. I don't know if I can pull it
That
up.
would help. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to add if you open the agenda document that's posted on the city website for this meeting, then the application is in there and contains a larger scale site plan.
Okay.
I think I have the web version of Zoom, so I'm not really capable of sharing my screen right now.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'll move on with a couple more comments. I would agree with Dirk in concept about his surprise and objection to what appears to be a two-tiered system of protocols for the public versus private sector. I don't know how else to describe what the folks that are at the heart of this meeting are proposing other than a variance. They want to do something that's contrary to the current zoning overlay. And if I were to ask to do the same thing, it would be characterized as just that, a variance request. And I've been through the variance process a few times. I think it's a pretty fair process that you're challenged to argue your case from a point of hardship and demonstrate that you're not really defeating the public's goodwill and safety, et cetera. And, you know, I think it's a tried and tested system, but if a party can come along because they're with the government and say, look, I'd like to just, you know, build a zero lot line building, and it gets rubber stamped, I object to that as a citizen. Now, my building across the street at Berkshire Hathaway, I did about a $2 million renovation there just 2 years ago. And I had all kinds of problems with setbacks, trying to expand my building and manage and preserve parking. And the parking in my alley, which became greatly diminished because of setbacks, is a case in point. So, you know, here we are paying taxes, obeying the laws as we're told. And it's just, it's certainly troublesome in my heart and head to see that other folks can just kind of do what they want and it gets rubber stamped. Again, I support this project, but I think there's plenty of space. I mean, there's acres and acres of open space to meet current zoning. And I think that should be reconsidered. So I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Thank you. I think you could contact the county, let them know your opinion. And as far as the law, that would be contacting your state representative and letting them know your opinion. And, you know, frankly, I don't disagree with you that it is difficult to get things done through the city and the county as a private citizen, and public entities have a different route. Dirk, did you have something else to say?
Yeah, am I still on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to add amen to what Dan said here too. And actually, I'm not conceding what's been represented here since we don't have legal counsel on either side present. I'm going to be investigating this. I just find it incomprehensible that the government can do whatever it wants to do in these type of situations. And one reason I say that is the very evidence of this meeting. There'd be no point of even having this meeting if they could just simply do it. So I would like to be on the record as, again, being supportive of this project, which I've been aware of for quite some time, but opposed to this request for a variance because there is no hardship and there's scores of acres in this property and it's not going to impact the open space of the gardens one iota, but it will significantly impact the development in this area, all of which is paid for by private citizens.
So noted, and you are on the record.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? All right, hearing none, thank you for all who participated. Moving on to agenda item number 7, other business. Anything else to come before the board? Hearing none, we adjourn this meeting of the City Board of Adjustments. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.